The first major debate between German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and his main rival Friedrich Merz ahead of the upcoming federal election on February 23, 2025. Welcome back to RIX Europe, Jan Burdinski, managing partner of Berlin Communications.
Hello.
What parts of the debate have been highlighted the most and why?
You know, there's a huge chunk of the German population who believes migration is a major problem, as well as a stagnant growth. We have had zero growth for the last 3 years, so the record of the current government is not really good. And Friedrich Merz is way ahead in the polls of the two major government parties because of that, and wanted to enact legislation prior to the elections to solve the pressing migration issue and to take this out of the election decision of voters. But unfortunately, the political left, the Greens and the Social Democrats have blocked that. And unfortunately, we have not been able to pass this legislation as of yet. So it has to be done by the next German government.
How significant is this debate in shaping the voters' opinions, given the current polling trends?
I mean, if 60 to 70% of the Germans say this is a major problem, and if you know or if you consider that the hard right opposition party will mostly benefit from the parties of the middle not acting on the migration crisis, but them picking up possibly up to 25% of the votes, then yes, this is very significant, and it's very unfortunate that the parties in the government have not been able to enact this.
How much impact do you believe the issue of migration could have on AfD's election outcome?
You know, they come from a voter base 3.5 years ago of roughly 10%, and we will definitely see them above 20, maybe even 25%. I would say that is pretty significant.
What kind of government will we see? Do you think there will be a surprise coalition scenario?
Unfortunately, there is very little room for surprises. So far, should all the small parties drop out and perform less than the 5% threshold, then the Christian Democrats can choose their coalition partner between the Social Democrats, which is not good, the Greens, which is equally difficult, and the AfD, which they have ruled out. So they can only choose between a ecologic left and a social policy left coalition partner, which is not much of an option. Should any of the small parties get in, it will become even more complicated, and Friedrich Merz might be forced to have a coalition with both the Social Democrats and the Greens, both parties in the current government, both parties, responsible for the lackluster performance of the current government, and that certainly is not a good perspective for the entirety of Germany.
And what are the main economic concerns, and how effectively do you think that Scholz and Merz addressed them?
Germany has had no growth in the last 3 years. We have had major signs of deindustrialization, especially in the automotive sector. Jobs were cut. One of the major reasons for companies closing down and opening shop elsewhere is the very, very high energy prices. Germany has the highest energy prices next to the United Kingdom across the entirety of Europe, and that makes a lot of jobs very uncompetitive. And when everyone is performing quite okay, and especially our Polish neighbors are, they're constantly growing by 5, 6, 7% on an annual base, and we grow by 0.1, maybe 0.2% if we're lucky, and recently we have just had negative growth, then apparently something is wrong. And it's not the war in Ukraine, and it's not Donald Trump, and it's not whatever outside circumstances. It is a homemade problem, and this will lead to many voters moving away from the left parties and having, reorienting themselves to the political right.
And the latest numbers indicate that AfD are doing very well in the polling,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So what could this mean for the election outcome?
It means that coalitions become more difficult. Coalitions become more difficult to achieve because if normally you have to have a 50% plus one vote within a cake that is 100%. But if you take 20 or 25% off, then you have to have 50% plus one within a cake of 75% of the votes, which means your choices are limited, and that's why a vote for the AfD is not necessarily a vote to make Germany better and to improve the political situation, but rather to have a loud extreme opposition that no one wants to deal with.
So what do you think the voters should do to see a change in Germany, an improvement?
I'm biased. I'm a party member of the Free Democrats, which is one of the small parties that is struggling to get into the next parliament. And I do believe, on migration as well as on deregulation, cutting down government waste, and also stimulating the economy through a very competitive tax system. They have the right answer, but unfortunately, at the moment, this is overshadowed by the two big players, the Social Democrats and Christian Democrats, who basically take all the limelight, and it's very hard for small parties to shine in this when you have this duel, like this debates as you have in the U.S. primaries. But in the US, you have a two-party system, whereas here at the moment, you have a seven-party system in the federal parliament, and the small parties seem to be those who are thrown under the bus by the media and also by the electorate.
Thank you very much, Jan Burdinski, managing partner of Berlin Communications, for your insights.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching RIX Europe.